I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I was supposed to marry Lisa last weekend. We'd been together for 5 years, and honestly, I thought we were solid. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I believed she was the one. She was the girl I'd always dreamed of, smart, funny, confident, and yeah, a little bitchy sometimes, but I liked that about her. She always had a quick comeback, and she knew how to push my buttons in exactly the right way. That's what made her so irresistible. I thought we had a good thing going, but things started to feel off in the last few months. She was more distant, secretive even. I'd catch her texting late at night, and she'd always make up some excuse about work or needing to talk to her sister. I thought maybe it was just stress from planning the wedding or her way of handling nerves. I tried to ignore it, convinced myself I was overthinking. She'd always come back with a smile, say she loved me, and kiss me goodnight. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then came the small things. Her phone kept disappearing, she'd get defensive when I asked about her plans, and she started canceling dates last minute. At first, I just thought she was overwhelmed, but the nagging suspicion grew. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I loved her. I wanted to believe we were stronger than whatever was going on. I mean, how could she cheat on me? I was doing everything right, was I? I was patient, supportive, and I never once doubted her loyalty. But then the night before the wedding, something happened that shattered everything. I got a text from Mark, my best man. We'd been friends for years, closer than brothers, really. I trusted him with my life. But his message, it was a punch to the gut. All it said was, "Mike, I need to tell you something. Lisa and we've been sleeping together for months. I didn't want to tell you before, but I can't keep quiet anymore. I'm sorry." That moment, that was the moment my world turned upside down. It was like someone had ripped my chest open and poured cold water inside. I read the message over and over, trying to process what I was seeing. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my best friend, my future wife, actually had been lying to me this whole time. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and sick. How could she do this? How could Mark do this? I was furious, but also numb. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to ask how long she'd been screwing around behind my back. The worst part, I was supposed to get married the next day. All those plans, all those dreams, just gone. I sat there in my apartment, staring at my phone, trying to make sense of it all. How had I missed the signs? How did she manage to hide it so well? And what the hell was I supposed to do now? The shock hit me like a freight train, but I knew I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I had to confront her, had to get some answers. I waited until she came home that night, trying to keep my emotions in check. When she walked into the apartment, looking as smug and confident as ever, I felt a strange combination of rage and heartbreak. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Lisa," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "we need to talk." She glanced at me, eyebrow raised, with that typical bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was in control. "What's there to talk about, Mike? I've been working late, like I said. You know how stressful the wedding planning has been. Don't be so paranoid." I couldn't believe she was already trying to brush it off, acting like I was the one losing my mind. That's when I pulled out my phone and showed her the message from Mark. Face flickered just for a second like a flash of guilt, and then she quickly recovered, her tone turning defensive. "Oh, that," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "That's just Mark being an idiot. He's probably drunk or trying to get back at me for something. Honestly, Mike, I don't even know what you're upset about. We're about to get married, for God's sake. Maybe you're just overreacting." Overreacting. That's rich coming from her, considering she's been hiding a full-blown affair for months. I lost my cool then. "You're lying," I said, voice trembling. "You've been sleeping with Mark. How long has this been going on? Don't bother denying it." She rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, please, I don't have to explain myself to you. Mark and I were just friends. It's not a big deal. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." I couldn't hold back the anger anymore. "A friend? You honestly expect me to believe that? You've been screwing him behind my back, and you think I'm just supposed to forgive you, after everything?" Her eyes narrowed and she snapped, "You're overreacting. Maybe I've been stressed, maybe I needed some comfort. It doesn't mean I don't love you. I was going to tell you, but I didn't want to ruin the wedding day." Ruin the wedding day, that was her excuse. She had been lying, cheating, betraying me, and her excuse was that she was just stressed. I felt like I was losing my mind. And then in that moment she dropped the bombshell I wasn't expecting. "I don't know what you're so upset about," she said coolly. "Mark and I were just having some fun. It's not like I don't care about you. I still love you, Mike. You're just boring. You never paid enough attention to me. I needed excitement." That was the moment I realized she had no remorse, no shame, just cold, calculated indifference. I looked at her then, seeing her for what she was, selfish, manipulative, and completely devoid of loyalty. I felt a deep, searing pain, but I also knew I couldn't let her keep lying to my face anymore. This was bigger than just a betrayal. It was a complete annihilation of everything I believed in. I told her I needed time to think, that I'd be staying at my brother's place for a few days. She shrugged, acting like nothing had happened, like she expected me to just forget everything and move on. But I knew better now. I knew that my life wasn't what I thought it was. And the worst part, I felt this strange mix of relief and devastation. Relief because I finally knew the truth. Devastation because that truth was uglier than I ever imagined. The next few days were a blur. I stayed with my brother trying to process what I'd learned. Honestly, I kept going over everything in my head, every missed signal, every strange glance, all the times. She said she was busy or working late. It hurt so much to realize I'd been blind, that my trust had been so completely broken. I kept asking myself how I could have missed it, how I could have been so naive. Throughout those days, Lisa kept texting me. At first, I ignored her, but then she started sending these passive-aggressive messages, acting like I was overreacting, like I was the one blowing things out of proportion. She'd say things like, "You're making a big deal out of nothing," or "I still love you, but I'm not going to sit here and be guilt-tripped." It was infuriating. She was trying to gaslight me to make me doubt myself. One night she came over unannounced. She knocked on my brother's door, and when I saw her standing there, all dressed up like she was ready to make some grand apology, I felt that old familiar anger rise. I told her to leave, that I didn't want to see her. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk and said, "Come on, Mike. We're supposed to be married tomorrow. Don't you think you're overreacting? Maybe we just need to talk." I lost it. "You think I'm overreacting? After you've been screwing around behind my back for months? After you lied to my face about everything? No, Lisa, I don't want to talk. I want you to leave and never come back." She looked genuinely surprised, like she thought I'd fold, beg her to stay, or maybe forgive her because she's still the same girl you married. But I knew better now. That girl was gone, replaced by someone who only cared about herself. I told her she needed to leave permanently or I'd call the cops. She finally stormed off, yelling that I was overreacting, that I was a fool for trusting her. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling numb. I couldn't believe this was happening. My whole life I'd built my happiness around her, and now it was all a lie. I felt betrayed, angry, and deeply hurt, but I also knew I had to make a decision. Do I fight for her? Do I try to salvage what's left? Or do I cut my losses and walk away? Honestly, I was leaning toward walking away. I couldn't see any way to fix this. How do you come back from something like this? How do you forgive and forget when the person you trusted the most turned out to be the person who tore you apart? The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted but clear. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, not anymore. I called my lawyer, started sorting out what I needed to do if I decided to get a divorce. I knew I'd need to confront her again, maybe even take her to court. But honestly, I didn't care about the legal stuff right now. All I cared about was keeping my dignity, getting away from her, and trying to rebuild my life without the poison she left behind. Looking back, I realize I've learned some brutal truths about trust, about love, and about how dangerous it is to ignore the signs. I also learned that sometimes the people you think are your forever turn out to be just a temporary illusion. I don't know what the future holds now, but I do know one thing. I don't want to be with someone who would betray me like that. I don't want to waste another second on someone who only cares about herself. I just hope others out there who might be in a similar situation see this and realize, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs, because when it's too late, all you're left with is the wreckage. The days that followed were even worse than I expected. After I told Lisa to leave for good, she didn't take it well. She was furious, calling me all kinds of names, accusing me of being insecure, jealous, or perhaps even too clingy. Her voice was full of venom, trying to paint herself as the victim, as if she'd only been doing what she had to do because I wasn't enough. Honestly, hearing her justify everything just made me more angry. How could she sit there and act like she was innocent? Like she hadn't been lying, cheating, and sneaking around. I was trying to stay calm, but inside, I was boiling with rage. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and empty. I couldn't believe I had been so naive for so long. I replayed every word, every sign I missed, and it all just added fuel to my fury. I kept asking myself how she could look me in the eye and lie so convincingly. For months, she'd been pretending everything was fine while secretly screwing my best friend. That's what cut the deepest, knowing someone I loved and trusted had betrayed me so completely. The worst part was the way she kept trying to manipulate me. She kept texting, calling, begging me to forgive her, saying she still loved me and that it was just a mistake. She acted like she was the victim, like I was overreacting because I was insecure or jealous. It was so typical of her, trying to make me feel guilty, trying to spin it like I was the one who messed everything up. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd seen her true colors and I knew I couldn't go back. One night she showed up at my apartment unannounced. She knocked on the door looking desperate, her eyes red from crying. She tried to come in, but I blocked her way. "Lisa, I don't want to see you," I said coldly. "You've done enough damage, just go, leave me alone." She started crying, begging me to forgive her, saying she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was just lost and confused. She said she loved me and she didn't want to lose everything. Honestly, I felt nothing but disgust. This was the woman I was supposed to marry, the woman who had been screwing around with my best friend for months. I told her to get out and never come back. That night I stayed up late, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. The pain was overwhelming, like a hole in my chest that wouldn't heal. I kept asking myself how I could have missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. I thought I knew her, but I had been living a lie. I felt like I'd been duped, played for a fool, and now I had to pick up the pieces of my broken life. In that moment, I made a decision. I couldn't fix this. I couldn't fix her. The trust was shattered beyond repair. The only thing I could do was to walk away and try to rebuild myself. I started packing my things, planning to move out and find a new place. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I wouldn't survive if I stayed. The constant reminder of her betrayal was too much to bear. Looking back, I realize I've learned some brutal lessons. Never ignore your gut. Trust is everything, and once it's gone, it's nearly impossible to get back. Some people are just good at hiding who they really are until it's too late. And sometimes, love isn't enough to save a sinking ship. I've also learned that revenge isn't always about firing back or hurting them. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply walking away, reclaiming your dignity, and refusing to let someone else's betrayal define you. I've started to rebuild my life slowly, and honestly, it's going to take time. But I'm done with her, done with the lies, and I refuse to be someone's fool anymore. The process of moving out and starting over was even more exhausting than I expected. I had to find a new place, deal with all the little things, changing my address, sorting through my stuff, telling my friends what happened. The worst part was the silence, the feeling of emptiness that crept into every corner of my life. I kept replaying everything in my head, wondering how I could have been so blind. Honestly, it's like I was living in a nightmare I could wake up from. One thing I didn't expect was how much guilt I'd feel, not for the betrayal, she's the one who cheated and lied, but for trusting her for so long, for not seeing the signs, for not protecting myself better. I kept asking myself if I was enough, if I could have done something different to stop this from happening. But deep down, I knew it wasn't my fault. Some people are just good at hiding who they really are. Still, it's hard not to blame myself, especially when I see friends who say things like, "You deserve better," or "You're better off without her." Eventually, I started to get some clarity. I made a conscious decision to focus on myself, to take care of my mental health, to get back into things I loved, and to rebuild my confidence. I started going to the gym again, reconnecting with my old hobbies, and even started seeing a therapist. It helped me process everything, figure out that I wasn't the problem, that I was just a guy who got caught in a really bad situation. But let me tell you, there's a lot of anger still lingering beneath the surface. Not just anger at her, but anger at the whole situation. How easily people can hide their true selves, how fragile trust really is. I found myself questioning everything about relationships now. Can I ever really trust someone again? Is love just a fleeting illusion? Those were hard questions to answer, and I'm still working through them. For now, I'm trying to focus on healing, on not letting the betrayal consume me. I've also realized how important boundaries are. Moving forward, I know I won't tolerate any bullshit. No more ignoring signs, no more putting up with disrespect. I deserve someone who's honest, loyal, and who values me as much as I value her. That's what I want now, something real, something worth fighting for. I know I'll get there eventually. And honestly, I've learned some things about myself in the process. I'm stronger than I thought. I've survived something that could have destroyed me, but instead it's made me more cautious, more selective. I won't settle for a girl who's just pretty and bitchy. She has to be genuine, honest, and worthy of my trust. I don't regret falling in love with Lisa, because it taught me what I won't accept ever. Again, that's part of growing, right? Knowing your limits, understanding what you need to protect yourself. So yeah, it's been a brutal journey, but I'm still standing. I'm rebuilding my life one day at a time, and I'm starting to see that there's still hope out there. My trust is shattered, but it's not completely broken. I'm just cautious now, more cautious than I've ever been. And maybe someday I'll find someone who's worthy of my love without all the lies and betrayal. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, learning from the past, and making sure I never get blindsided like this again. Looking back, I realize this whole ordeal changed me in ways I never expected. I used to believe in fate, in trust, in happily ever after stories. Now I see how fragile those things are, how easily someone can rip them apart with lies and betrayal. It's a hard lesson, but one I needed to learn. If I could give anyone advice from my experience, it would be this. Never ignore the red flags, no matter how small they seem. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone you love has betrayed you, don't waste time denying it or making excuses. Face the truth, no matter how ugly it is. I've come to understand that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. It's easy to stay, to hope that things will get better, but most of the time that's just a way of delaying the inevitable. When trust is broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild it all the way, at least, not without a lot of effort and genuine remorse. And let's be honest, some people just aren't capable of that. They're too selfish, too dishonest, too caught up in their own lies. For me, the decision to move on was the hardest but most necessary step. I might never fully forget what happened, but I refused to let it define me. I refused to be the guy who got played and stayed broken. Every day is a chance to start fresh, and I'm determined to live my life with a little more caution, a little more wisdom. Trust is earned, not given freely, and I know now that I need to guard my heart more fiercely. To anyone else out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Listen to that little voice inside. Do. Let anyone make you feel guilty for walking away from a lie. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect. Don't settle for less just because you're afraid of being alone. Because honestly, being alone is better than being with someone who only drags you down. I'll never forget the pain, but I also won't forget what I've learned. Love is supposed to be a safe harbor, not a battlefield. I hope my story serves as a warning, and also as a reminder that even after the worst betrayals, you can rebuild. You can find happiness again. You just have to be willing to walk away from the lies, take your pain, and turn it into strength. That's what I'm doing now every day. And I know someday soon I'll find someone who truly values me for who I am. Until then, I'll just keep moving forward,